the National Sports Industry Policy, NSIP, 2022 to 2026. The policy has as its core the building of a business model into our sports development. Recall that over a year ago, the President in Council, with other FEC members, approved the reclassification of sports as business. So sports is business in addition to recreation. And part of the plan is to bring a policy to be able to tie this in for implementation. Today, that policy, 2022 to 2026, was presented to Council, and the Federal Executive Council has approved the National Sports Industry Policy 2022 to 2026. This approval brings to a final closure the idea that, or the principle of sports as business, which opens the door to private investment driven by incentives and also investment from the private sector. The approval obtained today will also look at sports code of governance regulations as it relates to our sporting federations to create a sports governance structure as we have in other sectors that will be attractive to the private sector. And this code of governance will attract obligations like accountability, which are critical to investor confidence and also sector clarity. The approval also covers incentives for private investors in sports development. Approved were the proposed tax and fiscal incentives needed to drive sports as business and also to attract the much needed investment from the private sector. The approval also covers the ability of the sports ministry to drive the application of a medley of funding and financing approaches to develop our infrastructure and to develop our sports. From ROT, which is renovate, operate, and transfer, to BOT, build, operate, and transfer, to the Integrated National Financing Framework, INFF, and also the Nigeria Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan. All of these have been approved as approaches we can employ to boost sports as business. Most importantly, the triggers of sports as business, which is infrastructural development, investment from public and private sector, and also incentives that were presented to Council were all approved. And with this development, we believe that a new dawn has come for sports development in our country. In this policy, there's something for the athletes. In this policy, there's something for the government. In this policy, there's something for the mass of sports-loving Nigerians. And in this policy, there's definitely something for our youth population because it has a fully developed sports value chain into which most of our youth can plug in and also investors can plug in. Thank you very much.
If you recall, bird flu has been something that we see and hear about in Asia. But of course, in 2006, Nigeria experienced the very first one. And at the time, we lost about 1.2 million birds, chicken. This is a highly pathogenic viral infection that is so contagious and is zoonotic, meaning it can go from animals to humans and can cause death and can cause sickness. So the previous policy was put together by experts back in 2005 in order to contain quickly any kind of outbreak of bird flu. So, but the sector has grown so much. with additional importation of maybe new and exotic birds. Therefore, the need to revise this policy and produce a new one that will conform with the current happenings in the industry. That is why this new policy is being put forward by the ministry. And it's the same, I mean, it's called the same really, is emergency, comprehensive emergency preparedness and response plan to contain any future occurrence. This industry is an industry that has grown to have a population of over 165 million birds, and is an industry of about 1.6 trillion naira. This industry also is really largely populated by rural dwellers, about 70%. So the objective here is to make sure we have a robust preparedness plan that in case of any additional outbreak. Even currently, you know, we have sporadic, periodic outbreaks, again, that is plaguing the industry, which is why we have to upgrade to make sure we're always ready to move on. And the addition to this new policy also is the establishment of centers that will cater for issues of compensation to poultry farmers in the country. This is basically what the new policy is all about and has just been approved by the Federal Executive Council. Thank you. First of all, let me categorically state that we cannot stop flood. It's a natural occurring phenomenon, but sometimes being exacerbated by our actions or inactions, that is human interference in the environment. So if we cannot stop it, but we can focus, we can get ready, we can move things and people, properties, we can avoid putting things in floodplain, especially if there is this prediction. And that has been going on. Predicting work with several agencies, one of them being NIMED, that can tell us the prediction of how much rain we're expecting in a particular year. But also, occasionally there is also release of water from dams. All these people are warned. But sometimes, being nature what it is, even after being warned, if you don't move in time, it may come even sooner or later, all of this. So, all that said and done. Currently, yes, some of the areas are still submerged, but we have started assessing how much damage has been done, the areas flooded, how much crops have been destroyed, have been damaged. The assessment is ongoing. We're also using our remote system satellite to assess areas. We have preliminary data, but we do not have all of it. Number 3, for farmers especially, we always encourage farmers to take insurance. There are farmers that have taken insurance, so now is the time for compensation after we finish all the assessment. Number 4, the government always will have a plan of action or emergency response just like this. What can the government do? What can the government do also to compensate those that don't have insurance? Not really compensation, but assist, come to their aid. We have that plan and we are already activating, pending when we will finish all the assessment. What are we doing to avert food shortage? Number 1, first and foremost, we have in place an intensive plan for dry season farming. We have gotten funding from the African Development Bank. We have some money also in our own provision. And also, IFAD, that is International, IFAD, what is that? International, thank you. They have also just donated, or grant, if you will, $5 million. So we have some money that we are already planning to do dry season farming. Also, areas of conflict. We are recruiting additional rangers. Previously, I told you, I think in another forum that we have agro rangers that provide some measure of security on farmlands. We are recruiting more to do that. Also, we are intensifying farming in areas that have no conflict to make up for those areas that we are getting little or no access. So the thing is, the government, Mr. President, has specifically directed that we do everything humanly possible to make sure there is no food shortage in the country, and I can tell you there will not be any food shortage. Between the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, the Central Bank, and other private investors in agri, there's enough grains in the silos, in our own silos, in the CBN silos, that will cater for any eventualities. And currently, humanitarian ministry is picking up some grains from us to distribute to the needy. So I can assure you, by the grace of God, there will be no food shortage. Thank you. Oh, fertilizer. The Presidential Fertilizer Initiative is not really under me. We have our own fertilizer programs, and with the normal NPK or urea, and also liquid fertilizer that we distribute to farmers. Sometimes gratis, free. Sometimes we give them at 75% discount. This is all part of the intervention, including giving out seeds and everything. So, but for fertilizer, to tell you detail about PFI, I don't, because I don't run it. The chairman is somebody else and is being run by them. Thank you.
Sorry, Honorable Mr. Henry, just the preliminary report you have concerning the damage by flooding. Can you tell what that report is telling you so far, your preliminary report?
Oh, definitely, it's telling us that, yes, we have lost some farmlands. For example, I can give you one, the Olam, which is a private organization, has a rice mill that has been totally submerged, about 4,000 hectares. So there are farmland that are definitely damaged. But what are we going to do? Like I said, is to use dry season farming to compensate for this loss. In fact, some of the crops we are planning to even produce twice during this dry season farming.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you.
Thank the Minister for Science, Technology and Innovation.
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon, gentlemen of the press. Our Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, presented a memo to the Council in respect of public-private partnership brought by one of our agencies, and that's NASDA. Of course, NASDA is the space agency. The memo essentially is to secure partnership on the upgrade, equipping, operating, and marketing of Space Museum and Planetarium. That is essentially what it's all about. And the buildings meant for this project had been in place since 2018. But because of non-availability of fund to put the necessary equipment in place, that project has been stalled. And riding on the directive of Mr. President at the National Space Council meeting, chaired by Mr. President himself in 2022, where he directed that the DG should explore and exploit collaboration with the private sector. So, an unsolicited proposal came from a Nigerian company, a private company in Nigeria, leading to the necessary processes in terms of outline business case and full business case, ensuring compliance with all the requirements needed to present the memo before the council, which we did this morning. Unfortunately, the memo was approved. And of course, the cost of the project is about 3.5 billion naira. And it's at no cost, and I mean no cost to government. And the project will last for about 15 years, when thereafter it reverts to the federal government. The buildings that I'm referring to, they are located at the NASDA premises here in Abuja. So that's essentially what the memo is all about. Of course, it's going to provide jobs for over 200 people, and of course, it's going to be an opportunity to provide learning experience in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, Tribune.
So we're talking about space technology.
Mm-hmm.
In your ministry, as far back as 2019, the ministry was talking about the manufacture of pencils. I don't know whether you can give an update. Are we manufacturing pencils in this country? Are those pencils in the market right now? They are available. And again, your ministry also told us about the project development institutes. I'm still talking about the 2019 period where your former minister was addressing the issues. We're told that the institute will be brought up to begin to manufacture machine tools, aircraft parts, and all that. Have you been able to achieve that objective? I can see that we are stepping up to space. What can you tell?
Any other questions so that we take it all at once? Okay. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you very much. Even though we're talking about the project that has to do with space economy, but I understand you bringing up the issue of PRODA. PRODA, that's Project Development Agency in Enugu, as you said. Regarding the pencil project, the latest or the update I can give you is that, yes, already pencils have been manufactured in that place, to the best of my knowledge. My colleague, the Minister of State, visited about a month ago, and the report he brought back, he physically visited the place, and the report is that, yes, the process of manufacturing of pencils is on as we speak. Of course, the other issues in terms of necessary equipment needed to also effect production of other innovations in that place, they are also on. Don't forget again that one of the challenges that we've had in that place is a crisis in that place, very serious crisis, which we just got over shortly before the exit of my immediate predecessor. But we are on. And of course, let me also say that we cannot wait to resolve whatever crisis in one agency before moving to. It's what is available to us at a given point in time that we will follow the lead to achieve what we want. We have about 17 agencies. So it's not one step after the other. It's about working simultaneously and achieving the best that we can based on the realities before us. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. also today the Minister for...
Oh, sorry.
The Minister for Works and Housing also presented a couple memos. First, he presented a memo that shows the federal government's continued engagement in bringing succor and resolving issues around the recent flooding. He got approval for the variation order in respect of the repair works on the East-West Road project affected during the recent flooding occurrences in the Niger Delta. So the approval was for a variation order for the East-West Road project sections 1 to 4 from Warri to Port Harcourt, Eket-Oron, including Oron-Eket bypass, in the sum of 260 billion, thereby increasing the total contract sum for the outstanding sections 1 to 4 of the East-West Road projects from the sum of formerly of 246 billion now to 506 billion. The memo was approved. Also, the Minister for Works and Housing also got approval for the award of contracts for the urgent repairs and special general maintenance of a few roads nationwide. This includes the construction of Gogaram-Guri Road in Yobe State in the sum of 40 billion with a completion time of 36 months. Also got approval for the rehabilitation of the 90-kilometer Buni-Gari-Gulani Road, also in Yobe State, in the sum of 4 billion naira, with a completion period of 36 months. And also, finally, regarding urgent repairs in some of these roads, also for the reconstruction of Water Corporation Drive and Trinity Avenue, Victoria Island, Lagos State. That road was also approved in the sum, repair of that road was also approved in the sum of 2 billion naira with a completion period of 36 months. Finally, the Minister for Works and Housing also got approval for the award of contract for the dualization and reconstruction of the Kano, Kwana, Ganja, Adejia Road in Kano and Jigawa states, Section 2, Kano to Sale. This was approved to the amount in the sum of 94 billion naira, inclusive of 7.5% VAT, with a completion period of 24 months. Thank you very much.